Episode 35 of Between Two Wheels podcast, cycling news, commentary, analysis, and interviews from Northern California. This episode is brought to you by Health IQ, an insurance company that helps health-conscious people get special life insurance rates. Go to healthiq.com/BTW to support the show and learn more. As always, subscribe and share the show via iTunes, Stitcher, Podbeam, or whatever podcast service you use. And for this week, the show is also going to be on our Between Two Wheels YouTube channel as well. Interact with us on our Facebook page by searching Between, the number 2, Wheels, and the links will be in the show notes found in the description of this feed. How you doing, everybody? This is Tyler Janke, one of your hosts for the Between Two Wheels podcast. Kurt's already jumping on the bit. How you doing, Kurt?
I'm doing good, Tyler. How are you?
I'm doing good. Like the weather today, even though it's rainy, it seems to be a little bit warmer. And you went out for a ride, I hear.
I did, yeah. I beat the rain. Went out before lunch, and yeah, so I'm pretty happy about it. I don't like the weather today, but
when I say I like the weather, it's sunshiny in my office, and I've been out inside all day.
Okay,
so that's
gotcha.
And it looks nicer. Chris Flower, how are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. That's what my script said I'm supposed to say, so covered.
Well, but the reality is, and we'll get to it a little bit later, but you had a wreck this week. And
I did.
How are you actually doing?
I think I'm doing okay. A little bit of road rash is lingering, but otherwise not bad.
All right. Well, let's give a little breakdown of kind of where we're going to go with this podcast, and then we'll actually jump into it. You know, we got a bunch of new listeners and viewers, so maybe we're not going to... Next time, Kurt didn't want to do this, so I was going to give a little talk about each one of us and kind of give a little introduction. We'll wait on that. We'll just let you guess.
I actually didn't want to do this part either.
You didn't want to do this part either. But I'll just give a little theme of the podcast. We are focusing on Northern California racing, all things bike racing. We're trying to give you, the listener, a voice out there to some extent by talking to your teams, seeing how some of the races are, giving you props for when you do well. And then just us being complete morons and idiots on the microphone.
And we'll let you know when you don't do well as well.
And we'll let you. That's the losers and the winners part, right?
Right.
Okay, so here's some of the deals we're going to talk about this week. We're going to recap some of the World Tour races that have been, some winners and losers. Do a little classic season begins. We've got Omloop and Kearns Brussels. Is it KBK? We'll call it.
Kern Brussels Kern.
Yeah, there we go. The weekend that was in NorCal, Cantua Creek, Pine Flat, Cherry Pie, which you guys are going to have intimate details on. Upcoming NorCal racing calendar, which we went over last time. We'll just recap some of those. We have Snelling and the Madera Road Race. Who's mad at what? Kurt's favorite topic of the week. No Phil Guyman in this one episode. Lots of winners at the Cherry Pie thing we're going to go over.
There's no guarantees on the Phil Guyman thing.
Some news and noteworthy, some topics that we just wanted to get into, and like I said, we'll pick some winners and losers of the week. So let's begin this thing. The week that was, we'll start with the World Tour. So big topic first is going to be the Cherry Pie, because that's where you guys went. So we're teasing that. So stay tuned till the very end of this podcast for that. All right. So Ruta del Sol, the Algarve in Portugal, and the Tour of Oman out in the desert. Those are the three basic big races that we just had finished. Let's start with the Ruta del Sol, which is Andalusia. You know, I heard a really interesting. It was the cycling podcast, and they had a Spanish guy in there, and he gave a breakdown of the Ruta and the Andalusia. Now it's Andalusia, is it Ruta? And it's been the Ruta del Sol, and then it was the Andalusia. And I guess there's some conflict between the organizers and the region, which is the Andalusia region. So the organizers keep wanting to call it Ruta because Andalusia is not giving it enough money. They're kind of trying to piss them off. So the name goes by both. So when you see one, just you can pick either one, kind of however you want to do it.
That's good info.
Yeah, that helps me fine-tune my YouTube search at the end of each day so I can find the stage.
Yeah, if you could even get the spelling right in the first place.
The Ruta del Sol is pretty easy.
That one's a little easier. Yeah, I would grant you that. So we saw Tim Wellens, Lotto Sudal, he won. Wout Poels was second, and Marc Soler of the Movie Star in third, and then we had Chris Froome coming in 10th. Did you, either one of you, I watched some of that, and it was pretty cool to see Wellens do his typical attack, and then I thought he was going to fade like on one of the first mountain climbs, but he ended up holding on and doing well. But Froome, any takes on the Froome debacle showing up?
I don't know if I've got any good takes. It was interesting that when the race kicked off, Froome had indicated that he was getting such great support from all the other riders. And I think it was stage 2 or 3, Wellens came out and said, I don't really think that's the case. And, he kind of backed up that statement with the win, which I think is kind of cool. Sticking it to Team Sky there.
And Curt had kind of mentioned that last week, and then we went off in a rabbit hole. Would you want to make more comments? And I won't jump in this time on Wellens and his comments towards Froome. Chris, Curt?
No, I don't have anything more to add than what I said last week. I've read more of the same stuff that guys weren't incredibly happy with him showing up there, especially after you had mentioned that folks had self-suspended with similar charges kind of looming over their riding. So, no, I don't have anything else to add. It was good to see, I guess, Wellens do well and Walt Poles, but otherwise, yeah, that's it.
I didn't catch much of this race, and I'm not sure if it was this race or another one we'll talk about later on. Weren't there some kind of dirt or gravel components to the stages on this race?
There were some dirt components to either this one or the Algarve, and I'm trying to remember. I think it was this stage.
That's what I recall. And I don't remember if it was on the actual stage or one of the time trial legs. I forget, but it seemed like it had an interesting element. I'd have to go back and look at it.
The road was pretty clean. I think it was a time trial.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was pretty clean. And Wellens took that. I don't think he took the time trial. I should probably look up the exact results for what we're speculating on here. But back to what you were just saying. One of the guys I do like in the peloton, and I think it's because he is so unguarded as opposed to Froome, is Dumoulin. He came out as well and was making comments about Froome. And then he kind of backtracks himself as he's saying, it kind of depends on he goes, I just want justice and I want it, now. He goes, whatever that justice is, either, he's guilty or he's not. But I like how he doesn't seem afraid to just come out and say his piece and use the F word too. I don't know if you've noticed that in some interviews.
I hadn't heard.
Yeah. Anyway, that was pretty cool. Also at the Ruta, it was EF, Education First, Drapac, Cannondale, whatever they're called now. Modulo, Sacha Modulo, he won a stage for them, so they got a stage. And he also sat up on the first stage 1. Looked like he had that one. And he started to post up and got beat at the line, which he learned the next 2 days later. So he ended up getting the stage win. So good for them already coming that in. And then we had Algarve, which was in Portugal, won by Kwiatkowski, Team Sky. His teammate Garrett Thomas in second, and then our own American TJ Van Garderen in third. Did you see any of that?
I didn't see a lot of this one either. It was kind of a hectic week for me away from watching the racing. But I do recall Van Garderen saying he would much rather win a stage than end up just on the podium. So now that he ended up third, not winning a stage, I wonder if he would change that statement.
Yeah, I saw the headline for that as well. Did you read more about it? Why he would say that? He said that before he was actually on the podium.
Right. He said that kind of mid-race. I think he was saying, he's more interested in just having one kind of big day just to kind of see where he's at. But it wasn't a really elaborate comment, but just one that's interesting considering he ended up with the opposite result of what he wanted.
Yeah, and kind of to put that into perspective here with Kwiatkowski, 2 stage wins, and the last one we got in a break, and his teammate Garrett Thomas was in the lead, and then he ends up smoking it up the final climb, taking the stage win. And I did read today where he said that he didn't want to have to look at Thomas afterwards if he wasn't able to pull off, by taking the jersey, if he wasn't actually able to take the stage win too. He would at least I got to lay this down. And so, you look at him and how he rode in the Tour last year, did very good in the time trials, rode to almost complete exhaustion in defense of Froome, and former world champion. And you look at his race experience against Sagan as an example, which is surprisingly good. Those 2 1-ups from juniors on up, winning stuff in breaks that you don't expect him to do. Pretty impressive. I wonder if he'll be trying to do stage hunt or Grand Tour racing this next year or so. I guess with Sky, it's kind of hard to do that.
Yeah, they've got a pretty stacked deck to
Tour Poland.
Put your name in that hat.
Did you see that one at all, Curt? You had a busy week as well.
I mean, there's three stage races all going on at the same time. That's a lot of racing. So no, I didn't catch.
And you missed the first 2, so you've got a lot of info on this third one, right?
Well, and Ben King got the climber's jersey, King of the Mountain at the Andalusia as well. I don't know if you knew that. Oh, and
I didn't even know Ben King was still racing.
Yeah, Dimension Data.
Good
No,
for
not Ted King, Ben King.
Yeah, I said Ben
Okay,
King.
I know. And then Colin Joyce, Raleigh, was a top 10 finisher on one of those sprint stages, in the Ruta, I believe. So, good for him.
Very good, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big result.
Tour of Oman, we had, I don't know if you saw any of that, and maybe you should just say no, and then we'll just
No.
move on. We'll just give the results here. But Astana was a little impressive. They had Lutsenko winning overall. His teammate Lopez, is that Superman? So yeah,
It is,
Superman, getting second, and then Izagiri, Bahrain Merida, coming in third. And what I've seen out there, the desert, is some of the cool the sprinters showing.
All of them?
All of them. You look to date, and maybe we'll talk about this a little later. But to date, almost all the sprinters have been firing at some point, except for Kittel.
Yeah, he seemed to be struggling right now, whether it's himself or not being able to fine-tune his lead out. It's not getting results either way.
Well, I saw the highlights for the stage 2 of the Abu Dhabi today, and the announcers are like, Kittle's teammates sticking his neck out there and pulling, and they're yelling, "Where's Kittel?" He's nowhere. He's not even on his teammate. And then his teammate sits up, looks around, and is like exasperated. And then Viviani hits the lights and wins it.
So I didn't actually see what happened, but I saw Cavendish crashed.
Yes,
How bad was that?
concussion and
Whiplash, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And
And it was in the neutral rollout.
Okay. And this is the car that stopped because of...
the organizers are saying that they have an automatic. And now you explain this to me where this is ever a good thing. But if someone gets too close to their sensor, I guess the car puts on its automatic brakes. So you're telling me that you're driving your car, someone gets too close, and your reaction is going to be to slam on your brakes? That doesn't seem like a good idea unless you're trying to collect insurance. But
Well,
that's what happened, and it slammed on its brakes, and Cavendish went into the back.
yeah, I don't know which car, but yeah, that is a feature.
Mercedes.
Okay. Okay.
They're not a sponsor of this podcast.
Yeah.
No, but think about it. If someone's tailgating you, would you want your car to do an automatic brake check?
Well, no. What I'm assuming is the car hit its brakes because it sensed something in front of it. So maybe there was a lead car in front of it. It senses that. I know, like Subaru.
Gotcha.
Eyesight, for
I think there were
example.
motos in front of it is what it
Gotcha.
is.
Exactly. There you go. So
Well,
it
Details are important.
So if you're texting, for example, and you're in the middle of a text, it can potentially save you from an accident. But
Okay.
in a bike race, you'd probably want to turn that feature off.
Gotcha. And in a neutral, who knows if there's motos in front or bikes kind of milling around in front.
Yeah, just quickly jetting
Gotcha.
in front. Yeah,
Okay.
so-
Well, the clarity, I appreciate that. That makes more sense, because I think Mercedes would be a little smarter than that. But anyway, I guess he plows into the back of the car and he's out in the neutral.
And he was like the race ambassador. He had a pretty lofty title going into that, where he was kind of one of the big marketing pieces. So I'm sure they're not
Ambassador.
excited.
They used the whole spelling.
They did, yeah. He's not an ambassador. But I'm sure they were bummed to lose him.
Yeah, no, Cody, no kidding. And he had won some stages, not of that race, but I mean, early season he won in not Oman, but one of those races.
Dubai, maybe?
Yeah, maybe it was Dubai. Anyway,
Maybe this was all an elaborate ploy by the sponsor to show off their safety features in their new cars.
I don't know that Mercedes is a sponsor.
Anyways, horse racing is really big in Oman?
No, I did not know
It
that.
is.
Have
So,
you been to Oman?
I've not.
Have you been to any of the desert countries,
I've
region?
been to the desert, but I have not been to. I haven't been to the desert region you refer to. No,
Which one have you been to?
like the Nevada
Oh, God.
desert.
Okay. Yeah, not quite the same, but any big winners from the early thing that we have here?
I had the classics. I think the classics, everybody comes in fire into the classics because they've all been in these 1 week stage races. So I think the start of the cycling season really is about to hit us. I think that all this other stuff is just kind of a warm up. So the classics, that's my big winner.
Yeah, we got firing off this week. Chris?
I would say Rally. I think they've had some really good results in these early stage races and have done a good job taking advantage of their new Pro Conti status, getting into these races and just hitting the front and getting good results, or In McNulty's case, not a great result, but still a great showing.
Yeah, and then Robin Carpenter, I think a few days later, had almost a similar type situation. So, yeah, of course, exciting for them. Me, I would say Sky going 1-2 at Algarve. Nathan Haas in the Tour of Oman, he won a stage. He was pretty fired up about that. The crowd was electric, all 15 of them on the side of the road at the time. Even TJ and Sacha Malodo for TJ for his top 3 and Sacha for his win for EF. What are you laughing at? Because
you always have a lot of winners. Like
there's a lot of races.
I know. Okay, go on.
Okay, so we'll just cut that out, and I'll just say Nathan Haas. I was pretty excited about his one. Any losers? Did you have pick any? You're a positive guy here, Curt. So
I'll go with Cavendish.
Yeah,
not Mercedes.
Yeah, well, Cavendish and the Mercedes. If we can use multiple, I've noticed.
Chris, anything you saw?
I would say, you alluded to it earlier, the sprinters have been having a real go, and Kittle's just been absent. It seems like these early races would have been a great opportunity for him to show what he's got. He's just been invisible, so he's definitely on the not so great list.
Yeah, can you think of a year that you've had so many good sprinters, like seemingly coming? Groenewegen. Can we go through the list here? Maybe I can't.
You try. Viviani's
been on fire.
Caleb Ewan's been doing
Bennett, who hasn't won except for
because Cavendish has won a couple stages.
Cavendish.
Yeah, but it's just Kittle.
Are you guys worried about Kittle at all? Because I'm not worried, especially this time of year. Like,
no, and his team. Well, I guess I don't know if his team has any wins. Let's see. Oh, well, Nathan Haas, they do. So yeah. I actually have a list here of the World Tour victories ranking. It's interesting to see Team Sunweb, who was like Team of the Year, in my opinion, last year. They have 0 wins. The only team with 0 wins.
It's still early.
It's I don't know. Quick Step with 10. That was before today. And Katusha with 1 win. So, if you don't get that win off your back, it'd be nice to. What?
That's a pretty cool little chart. Did you do that?
No, I did not do that. This is Inner Ring. He did a whole breakdown on World Tour victories. And
nice.
I just printed it out so I could have a little reference.
Okay.
As far as losers go for me, I almost say. I want to say Team Sky they go 1-2 at.
That's terrible.
No, but the whole thing around them right now. They're obviously doing well, but this whole Chris Froome thing is, I think it's just eroding more and more of the confidence, and everyone's kind of turning on them as being this. I don't know if they have any fan. I'm sure they have fans, but it just seems like they've got this weird aura around them right now, and.
Well, to add to that, Brad Wiggins this week came out and to a group of young cyclists said, don't go to Team Sky. They'll ruin you, were his comments. And, yeah, what's hanging around that team right now? Not good. I can't imagine it's easy to focus on racing with all that stuff. I actually heard, it was a Cycling News podcast today I was listening to, and they did like a live, the interview that they had with him, and it was... I didn't enjoy it because he had minders, tenders, people there telling, "Oh, you can't ask those questions. You can't ask those questions." And then he's trying to answer something else, and it seems so. I'm sure when like I said, it goes back to Dumoulin. I couldn't imagine Dumoulin sitting there and evading questions. He would say, "Oh yeah, I took a dump on the side of the road." You know how he does, and so
I heard bits and pieces of that one as well, and some of his comments are just really contradictory. Where
yes,
oh, I miss the good old times of cycling where you can go up to the pro after the race and he's just getting changed in his car. That's how it should be. But he's, like you said, he's got his minders and his entourage there protecting him from the fans. It's like, well, you can't have it both ways. And not only that, some of his comments were kind of on the order of, well, Sky's such a big ego-driven team and they've got all these issues, and he's the face of Team Wiggins. It's like that's the epitome of ego.
Yeah. that is very true. Well said. And way to finish that little section out. You wanted to say something about Paulus, and
did I?
Yeah, you had a little things that just make you think here. I didn't really have anything for this, but or neither did Curt. But you had something on Paulus. What was that, Chris?
Oh, it was just I think he was going to Abu Dhabi. Is that going on right now? And passport issues held him up, which is, I guess, a rough entry into the World Tour status, and I think his team Lotto ended up being a man down for the race as well. So definitely some early growing lessons there.
yeah, I can't imagine with someone that's done so much traveling over the last few years. It's not like he's a new pro that's just now making his venture into Europe, what the passport issues.
He was just in Dubai a couple weeks ago, wasn't he?
Maybe lost his passport.
Could be. I don't
No,
know.
he raced really well there. I think he even had the one sort of mountainous climbing stage. I believe he was in the top 15, 20, right around there. And then I saw him bringing back a break on one of the days, and he looked very impressive. In fact, I think they went on to win the stage that day. They set up their sprinter. Not exactly his entry, but the kid's going to be fine. But
Yeah. He'll be fine.
I'm sure you don't like to see, hey, I've got a new employer and I'm going to do a big race and, paperwork. I'm not, HR says I can't go. That's
Right.
just a little devastating.
that is this. But to me, that's the strange thing is that, a couple weeks ago he was in Dubai. Passport obviously worked.
Right, and he's probably based in Spain or Italy or something like that, so it must be a functioning passport, so there may have been some visa issues or who knows
Stole
what.
some pillows from one of the
That'll do
Dubai hotels or something like that.
Yeah.
Unrelated to Palace, I don't know if you guys saw today, Tom Bonin signed with Ladu Sedal
I did
as
see
a advisory to the riders.
Oh, nice.
Kind of a big change after having spent however long with Quick Step.
Yeah, I was expecting to see some hate posted by our own Dave Kaus on online today. Sad tears. Nothing from there, huh? Nothing.
Toss those jerseys.
Take a left turn there, but
Wow. Okay, so we have two big races that, as Curt mentioned, the classics are coming up. So we have Omloop and KBK. Do you know anything about those races? And if not, I could give you a little breakdown. Omloop is kind of a new version, or they're taking a lot of the Tour of Flanders. And I read up on this today. Very interesting. So Tour of Flanders was started in 1913. Okay, had a long running history, and then during this Nazi occupation of Belgium, they were still running the race, and this was a lot of controversy because they needed to use the military police to clear the roads. Like how we'd have our police. So people did not like that. So there's obviously these two factioning newspapers in the country. So they started a different race, the Omloop, to kind of compete with it, and then they keep kind of stealing some of the routes, and they wouldn't even they name each other after the newspapers, and one newspaper wouldn't even refer to the other one by their proper race name because you're talking about the other newspaper. Right. Now the same newspaper has been bought up, and it's all under the same organizer. Anyway, it's kind of a precursor to the Tour of Flanders. They use a bunch of the same climbs. And
Which climbs are those?
The Bosberg and the Muir. The Muir van Gardudzenbergen, the Bosberg, and they finish up in Muirbeek. But it's really pretty interesting to see the Omloop here. For the last 60K, they hit these multiple sectors, but they do Kokerel, the Wolfenberg, the Molenberg, the Hagenlegberg, the Barensdrie, the Valkenberg, the Ten Boss, and the Muir Bosberg combo, all in the last 60K. So that's pretty intense. So it should be interesting to see who. Now, Sagan's not going to be there for either one of these, the Omloop or the KBK, so he's not going to be able to defend himself. You guys have who do you like to see in the classics, and who are you looking to see for this race?
I haven't seen a start list yet. I just kind of read a blurb that said a more difficult Omloop would favor Greg Van Avermaet. So if he's got the team there to help drive the pace and make it a challenge, you'd have to lean in his direction. But I'd have to look at a start list to see who else is lining up. Yeah,
it's your typical all the same guy. I mean, Greg, he's the defending champ, so it'll be interesting to see. Last year it was him, Sagan, and Sepp Van Mark in the finish together.
Why is Sagan not showing up?
I heard he's been doing these altitude camps, and he has a newborn son or daughter, so he's decided that to fit in his schedule, this just did not work out with it.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
Yeah,
Gravel grinder, is that what he's doing?
I think he's doing the Grasshopper series.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, he does have a gravel grinder coming up.
He does. I wasn't sure when it was though.
Yeah, I think
is that where he competes with Cancellara?
No, I think while he's here for the tour, either before that, probably after. He's sticking around in California and he's doing a gravel grinder.
He's at a Truckee area, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. You gonna go do that or watch that?
I think I might actually go do it.
I think Mike Bikes is already Team Mike Bikes is registered for it
I think that's a targeted A race from what I understand.
We don't need to get too deep in the woods here, but you've got Omloop, which is a little more, like I said, Flanders, hilly, with the last few K being kind of a roll in, and then the Brussels Kern the next day, which is usually a revenge race for the ones who didn't win the day before. Sagan was the defending champ. He's not there. It's a little flatter. It does have a bunch of climbs as well. It's 200K. The other one's 196. It's good to see the classes come, and a bunch of big hitters are all showing up for this. You have some out in the desert still that aren't going to be here, but, Greg Van Avermaet, Sepp, Jesper Stuyvens, basically everybody else. Gaviria, he's one that's lined up for it. And that's one I will be very interesting to see how he does, especially with the second day where it's a little flatter. Because I think that he might be the guy of the future for the next several years at least.
What's the length of that race?
The
ballpark.
KBK is 200.1 kilometers. Yeah. So it's not out of control.
Not too bad.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it'll be
races to watch. Definitely.
Races to watch, and it'll be fun because that whole Belgian beer and classics coming up. So it would be interesting to see what the weather's like as well. A lot of these guys, have been down under. They've been out in the desert, and so it's kind of like training camps. And I'm sure they're all flying for this. And so I don't know. Any last words on those?
I would just say the Sagan Fondo Dirt Edition that happens in May is May 5th.
How long is that?
Based out of Truckee. So,
how long is that?
How long is the race?
Yeah.
Or how
I think there's options. You get a few routes you can pick from.
I actually don't know. I think, 64 miles. And it's moderate terrain, but you need at least, they say, 35C tires. So,
do you have that?
I do.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Okay. I probably won't be doing that one because I just have a road bike.
Go on.
Okay, so we had NorCal. We'll go back to our actual races. We had 3 races this weekend: Cantua Creek, Pine Flats, and the Cherry Pie.
I think it was just Pine Flat. Single.
Pine Flat. I think you are correct. So, which one? Did you guys know much about either one of those? We talked a little bit about them before, and we could give maybe a breakdown of who won what there. Pro Min won. Colin Patterson of the Squadra SF team.
And this is in which race?
Won the P12. Cantua.
Okay.
This is Saturday. I think it's a flatter race. I've never done either of them, but I believe that's the flatter of the two.
And then you get something like this, the Masters 35, and I can't complain because I didn't go, but two entries. So you're guaranteed a podium with those two. Terrence Tragber won that one. I don't know. They must have combined a bunch of fields because the 45s, they had over 30 racers. Craig Noonans won that one. And then the 55s. I imagine they just put them all together because they only had like 10 in there. Quentin Sims. All right.
I saw a lot of 35-plus guys were in the P12 race, so they probably saw the pre-reg and were like, I'll go jump in the P12.
Yeah, there's 24 showed up for that race in the P12s, so not huge amount. And in the women's P12, one person, Beverly Cheney. Congratulations. And not her fault. She showed up. So... Pine Flat.
Well done.
We had the P12 was won by Matthew Wickstrom, Subaru Santa Monica. So I saw this in the other one too. A bunch of teams kind of from this more southern area.
SoCal.
These are down past Fresno, so it's kind of middle ground.
Yeah.
So this would an equal drive for both SoCal and NorCal.
So it would have been perfect to have Sean Bagley, be able to comment on some of these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if he went, but he could at least give us an idea.
Who they are.
Yes, exactly. And I'm trying to see if there was I don't even see a 35 category listed in that race.
There was.
Well, it's not on the results. So there's a 35 3-4, but then 45 1 2 3, which was Maxim Gusev won that. Let's see the women. So maybe the results are just pretty lacking because I'm not even seeing all the results here. Let's go to I know with Travis Lee. Thirsty Bear, he won. Did he win? He got second in the 35s? Okay.
Yeah, from what little detail I could get from that, it was 2-man break. Looked like they had gotten away kind of in the flatter stretch, and then it was the two of them through the big climb of the course and then together on the finishing climb. So, well-earned result.
Yeah, no, totally. Any of those wins, at least, are going to be good. So, Cherry Pie, out in Napa area, you both, Curt and Chris, you went out there. You partook in one of the races. I thought the the idea was to do 2, but
That was the plan, yeah.
So why don't you tell us what race you did? Either one of you can talk about it. Maybe you can talk about it until you weren't in it anymore. And then
Be a short story.
All right, Chris, go ahead and you can start out with that.
Yeah, so Curt and I, we went down and did the 35 plus 1, 2, 3 race. I haven't done Cherry Pie in the past, so I'm not familiar with the new course, and I'm not familiar with the old course. But we went out and raced the new course at Napa Valley College. Really technical. I think there were 10 turns, and that included a 180-degree turn and a roundabout that you went through with a kind of a right-hand bend instead of your typical left-hand turn.
Now, is a 180 just one turn, or do you clock
I count that as one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you incorporate that as like 3 turns, then it was an even more technical race.
Yeah.
But kind of in and around the parking lot in the college, it was a fun course. I mean, it was a lot of turning, a lot of jumping out of the saddle if you found yourself in bad position, which I did early. But ultimately, I was only in it for about 25 minutes. I ended up crashing out, and that was the end of my day. I wasn't really able to get back into the race. My derailleur hanger was bent, and I was done. But before I crashed out, there was some early attacks, and then I think probably around minute 15, it looked like Chris Coble and Aaron Patterson from Pete's had gotten away from the field, and then maybe around minute 20, the Taroon rider jumped across solo, and it was a 3-man move, and my kind of plan was come out of the roundabout and try and jump across. I ended up just carrying too much speed through the roundabout and lost the front wheel.
So your own mistake.
Oh, yeah, totally my fault. I paid the price, but them's the breaks, I guess.
It's like the Jan Ulrich in the rain, like a 2003 Tour de France time trial coming around a roundabout. You don't remember that? It slid for like 20, 30 meters.
I slid for about, I think, a foot.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you just... And are you doing okay?
Yeah, I think so. I've got some road rash. I think the biggest loss was my skin suit was basically in tatters after the crash. You kind of forget how fragile those kit items are until you hit the deck.
Yeah, that's horrible.
But I think the bike will be all right. Just new hanger and then good to go. So.
And Curt, you were in that race as well. I see. I don't know if you want me to spoil with given your results or.
Before he tells his story, I will say he was incredibly impressive.
I saw the pictures. He was.
That was my story, Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry, I ruined it. But no, he was
headlines.
I was kind of sitting in the back, part of the field, and it was constantly strung out. And I look around the bend. It's like, damn it, Curt, will you knock this off? I'm trying to like recover and get myself into a better position. He was just on the front drilling it. So it was a very strong race.
It's a very generous critique. I do
change
remember
my winners and losers, I guess.
So the course, Red Kite, I think was the promoter this year, and I don't know that they've always promoted it. I think it used to be a local cycling club.
It was like Eagle Cycling Club in the past.
Yeah. So Red Kite took it over. The old course was in a business park and included a little bit of climb. This new course was at the junior college, and it kind of wound its way through a parking lot, a junior college parking lot. So a lot of orange cones.
Would it be different if it wasn't a junior college parking lot? If it was just
with the high school campus, you're not allowed. so yeah, I guess you were eligible to race this. That's
okay. Good point.
Yeah. So in any event, just it was real technical, and it was pretty like sandy. It's a junior college parking lot. I guess that was the reason I was bringing that up.
They don't street
sweep. A lot of stuff to slip on out there.
I didn't think it was terrible. I mean, there was definitely some gravel in the wrong parts of the turn, but
yeah, that's all. Every time I went into a corner, it felt like there was something kind of in the line that I was looking at that I would probably had to deviate a little bit from. It wasn't terrible, but there was some stuff there. But it was a lot of fun. Early in the day, there was a little bit of a crosswind. Later in the day, when we got closer to the P12 race, I think that kind of died down, and I don't think it was a factor. But the 35s race was great. The 3 guys who won were incredible. Like that was especially the first 15 minutes. I thought were.
How soon into the race did they take off?
Like Chris said, I think they got together somewhere between like 17 to 20 minutes in.
And how big was the break? How many of them were in there?
3 guys.
3.
Okay, so because I'm looking at the results here, and Chris Colville wins, James Enright of Squadra SF second, and Aaron Patterson of Pete's third, and then you got Grunman and Jeremy Cottle. So they were back in the field with you guys.
I'll give Grunman some credit. So Grunman coming into the field sprint, I think was at the back of like our 14 or 15 guys, and somehow he just wound it up and just got through everybody and ended up taking it. So really impressive.
It looked like
it's a long sprint.
You thought it was a preem.
I think so. Yeah, Cottle jumped pretty early, and he was really fading toward the end of the sprint, and he kind of glanced back and saw Grunman coming, and it really came down to like a bike throw for fourth. And
is the finish on a little uphill or no?
Well, there's an uphill that leads into the finishing stretch. So you come out of the roundabout, so you have no speed. You go downhill for a little bit, so you pick up a little speed. Then there's a little, I don't know, maybe 100 meter, 150 meter little climb, maybe like 4, 5, 6% ish. But it hurts enough that it's tough, and then it flattens out for another 500, 400, 500. So it's a tough. If you're coming through that throughout the race, in the back of the pack, like 15 and back, it's really hard to make up ground going into that finishing stretch. So
and there was a video online of the P1, which we'll talk about the P1 too. Do you remember who did that video?
I think there were a couple.
Well, the Tehran guy that we.
Oh yeah, Jeff Linder, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, it was pretty good to see that course.
Yeah, and in the 35s race, the finishing stretch was into like a head crosswind. So, I mean, if you were gonna make up ground, it was a really tough effort, because you wanted to try, and if you wanted to make up ground, it was in that stretch before you hit the series of turns. Because once you're in those turns, it was not easy to make up spaces.
Yeah, I saw that. And you came back on yourself on the road. Is that correct? Like there was cones separating?
That was the 180, yeah.
Okay. And you got 11th, so congratulations.
Hey, thanks. That's bat and bar points.
Did they stretch the podium out for you?
The wide angle podium?
Yeah.
No.
Well, anyway, good job. Sorry you went down, Chris. I saw that you said Nick Theobald hit you.
That's not really his fault.
No. But I'm just saying, he was the last person to not to finish. So,
yeah, it's not Nick's
DNF.
fault.
So he got up, was able to finish. So
yeah, I checked in with him after the race just to make sure he was all right. And yeah, he was all right. He saw me go down. He was trying to avoid hitting me. It was luckily we were going at a relatively low speed because it was near the exit of the roundabout, and he just was in a position where he couldn't avoid me. And I was really thankful that most everybody else was able to get around me. Apparently, I curled up in a little ball.
Chris went straight into the fetal position. But again, this is a crash that like nobody's going fast. So Chris balls up like a baby, and we're all like, nobody's going to hit him because we're going like 5 miles per hour. But his tuck is so tight, and it was crazy.
It was
I was terrified.
Yeah, he was incredibly terrified as we all just slowly went around him.
That is terrifying. You go down and you're just waiting for the impact for someone to T-bone you
again.
In the back.
We're going 5 miles per hour, so yeah, nobody was going to run into him. But
I think they were up through the roundabout and into the next set of turns.
The officials,
before I picked my head up to see if it was all clear.
The officials had to yell at Chris and tell him to
get off the course.
It kind of reminds me of the
coming back around.
P12 video we were watching, where they are actually able to point out a rider on the ground. One of the guys in front's like pointing out, like, "Hey, your rider down." And you usually don't see it in races, being able to point down to someone. So that was anyway.
That was Will Brickler with the point.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really? I thought it was one of the.
Check the video.
Yeah, because I don't think he finished, and it was one of the guys in the definitely.
He did finish.
Not with the pack, because it was the last 3 laps.
He did finish with the pack.
He might have been pointing at somebody else that had hit
I was just watching the video. I'm now Willie Myers. I saw the video.
We were there for all of it.
Okay. Let's talk about that in a second. What about the 45 plus men? Did you?
The 45 plus was just.
Did you stay and watch that?
We came in maybe 5-10 minutes into the race. That was after we ran off to get lunch and get some bandages for my abrasions. But when we got there was, the race had already been blown apart. And there was, a couple riders, it looked like maybe off the front, a couple riders well off the back, 2 or 3 chase groups. And took us a couple laps, but it was pretty obvious that there was a Thirsty Bear rider that was just demolishing the field. He was carrying speed through every corner, full sprint out of every corner. And I think he didn't lap the field, but he was minutes possibly ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, he was in a 2-man break when
Right.
we first got there with, I think Chris saw it with Pete's, and at some point, I don't know if Chris had a problem on the backside of the course or what happened, but he came around on another lap and he had a 40-50 second gap. And
Yeah,
it was impressive.
Gardy Jackson. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he was
Thirsty Bear.
Yep.
And then it looks like Drum won the field sprint then.
Yes. Yeah. Jackson just looked, incredibly strong. It was 40 minutes into the 45-minute race and he was still full gas, not pedaling squares or anything. He just looked really smooth and powerful, and it was impressive.
So you'll have to tell me, because I've seen this in all these races, and you're talking about it here where he's riding people off his wheel and getting a big impressive break. Was it because there were just so many turns that you allowed you to get guys off the front or to create gaps? Because I look at the P12 field, and much like that, there's a lot of DNPs. I mean, the guys that just are DNPs didn't place. So looks like people were actually getting pulled from the race. Is that what was happening?
Yes. Yeah. Either guys were getting pulled. I think in the 35s race, I think some guys were just bailing out. Like 5 minutes into the race, you're already gapped off and 100 yards behind the field. Call it a day. But in the 45s, when they were in the two-man break, I'm guessing it was just, one guy jumping out of each corner a little harder each time, and that was enough to create the gap that, the other guy couldn't close, and that was that. So in the P12, I think it was a lot of the same. It was strung out from the get-go. And on a course that technical, you're coming out of the 180 and there's guys already exiting the roundabouts. You're kind of done.
Yeah, you can only sprint so much if you're not a sprinter.
Yeah, and especially early in those races, you have a few guys who pull the chute, and that's another gap that you have to cover. And with how technical it was, I think a lot of guys, if you weren't towards the front, it was really, really difficult.
Yeah, and with as technical as it was and as short a distance there was between each turn, if your cornering wasn't on point, each corner you're going to open up another meter gap that you got to try and close, or hope somebody comes around you and closes it on your behalf. And it was definitely a course where it was easy to get separation.
Yeah. So worthy winners, basically.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And the women's cat. Did you watch any of the other races besides the pro men's and the 45 and doing the 35?
We saw a bit of the Cat 3 race when we had arrived at the course. It was kind of juniors race, I think, was in progress, and then they took a lunch break. So we got there after some of the early races had already taken place.
Gotcha. We'll read some of these winners here. Hannah, I don't know how to pronounce it, Mugi of it doesn't say what team it is here, but I know we've seen her before. And she was I think she won in Jackson last year. Some of those other races she was winning a bunch. Let's do. You said the Cat 3 men.
We saw. I don't think we saw that entire race, but we saw a good amount of it. It was. I think a couple guys got off together in the last few laps to stick a two-man break, but I didn't see if they were to hold it to the end.
Looks like Olympic Club rider Morgan Gerlach won that. And let's get to the big one of the day, the Pro 1, 2, 3. So they allowed the threes in there. Like I said, I saw the video, and so it looks like the teams you had represented were Oak Valley Community Bank. Davis had a rider or two. Turan had some riders. You had Cliff Bar. They actually looked like 5, 6 in there.
Yeah. I think they had a good number.
Right.
And why don't you give and then Mike's Bikes. And
then Olympic Club also had, I think, 3 or 4 guys in there
as
well.
So it looks like they had.
It's just Chris Coble, but yeah.
20-some.
He does the work of 4 guys.
20-some guys officially finished. But it looks like regged. I mean, it looks like half the field DNS'd or DNP'd.
Yeah, that race blew apart pretty quickly. I want to say in the first, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, there were already guys coming off. Actually, yeah, in the first 5 minutes, I know there was somebody off the back already. So, it blew apart quick.
Well, I was surprised because looking at the video and the results here, you had, the winner, Josh Carline, with, I don't even think any of his teammates made the final selection.
We could confirm that. That's true.
Okay. Which is somewhat surprising that they weren't, I mean, just that hard of a day. Were they making it active to begin with?
I think it was just a really tough day. Like I said, from the start, and just given the nature of the course, I mean, it was single file, and you've got a field of 50 guys, and if you're on the wrong side of somebody creating gaps, it's just, your day's not over, but it's probably close to being over, because you've got to spend so much energy to try and make up that ground, and you've got some really strong teams that are really well positioned, just driving the pace on the front, and attack after attack after attack is just going to create so many gaps where if you're in the back third of that field, you're in a really bad spot.
So why don't you give us a breakdown of what you saw, and then maybe even the video portion of that last bit of that race?
I think it was attack and attack and attack.
Yeah, we saw attacks that they couldn't really get more than like 3 or 4 seconds. So you through the start finish, you would see like 2, 3, 4 guys get off, and it's like a couple second gap. I don't think any of them held it for more than a lap.
Right.
Maybe a little bit longer. Chris Reichert was in almost everything. He was
Mike
up there.
Spikes.
Yeah. Robert Skinner, was he the other guy with the leggings?
Yeah, he was in every move, it seemed, and he was also initiating a couple moves. I think I saw him either solo or one other rider off the front.
Who's he
a couple
ride for?
times. He is unattached.
There you go.
But
He
who
ended
does he
up
ride for?
I don't know.
He rides for himself.
He finished 8th, so someone can pick him up. And then you had the Cliff Bar team coming into the last 2 laps, just stringing it out. And this is the one that I guess to me gets a little confusing watching because they do a great lead out, and then when Reichert jumps and Josh goes with him, there's nobody. I mean, the guy that was filming it was right on their wheel, and then there's no one for their team to sprint. So I don't know if there was a mix-up. One of their guys went down. I know Owen's on their team. I didn't see him.
They had lost a few guys earlier in the race. Curt and I found a really good spot right by the entry to turn number 1, and you could kind of see all the way down the start-finish. So we had a good view for most of the race. And they had lost a few guys throughout the first 30 minutes of the race. So I don't know if they were, working for one of those guys, hoping he'd be around for the sprint or not. I'm not sure. But yeah, the video.
Well, because it looked like such great communication of they're lined up 4 or 5 deep. And then, 200 to go, they're still on the front, and then the jump happens, and they're all looking around and bewildered.
Maybe they were working for Chris. We don't know.
Chris Reichert?
Yeah.
Well, could be. Chris, so the results here, we had Josh Carling ends up pulling out the win. John Franz of Davis Bike Club, he's had some pretty good results. I tend to think we're going to see a little bit more from him this next year. Andrew Gosling of Team Mike's Bikes in 3rd. Mike Morton, Cycle Sport in 4th, and then Chris Reichert in 5th. And you want to tell us about what you saw with your video, and I guess.
And I think Morton's actually on A main. He just probably hasn't updated his.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
profile
there was A main
yet.
in 4th place. Yeah, but
So yeah, Reichert was 3rd in the sprint, but he wore a vest that covered his number, so the officials decided to relegate him to 5th, which is an interesting placing. But yeah, that's the one thing we kind of saw on the video. The other thing is with the Cliff Bar team did do a great lead out. They were, from the beginning of lap 1 or the last lap, they were on the front, took it all the way through. It looked like the way Reichert jumped up the left there, he may have pinned Cliff Bar a little bit along the cones. I noticed the rider who was actually filming the video, Jeff Linder, had to go around the cones at one point to get out. So he may have pinned their sprinter a little bit so that they couldn't get out, because I'm sure Josh was coming behind him and Andrew Gosling was coming there. So it's possible he just didn't have a way to get out.
Well, here's my take on that. Controversial take is, so Reichert ends up jumping and Josh goes with him, and they basically go 1-3, right? I mean, just as the sprint played out, not with the relegation.
Right.
So there's no way Cliff Bar should have had 4 guys left still in line at that point. They should have been down to 1 guy jumping, because that's your full 250 meter sprint. So if you're getting boxed in because you still have a 4-man train, then it's not really doing what it's supposed to do. That's just my thought.
I like their product. I eat Cliff Bars. I like their.
Okay, I was just confused, and maybe there was some insight, but I'm only watching a video. I mean,
right.
And and then how these things go too. You're like, hey, it's cool to see the team go out there and do what they're supposed to do, and they don't pull it off. And that's the practice. That's what you're there for.
Right.
So.
They did something, right?
Yeah.
They had a lead out. It didn't go quite as to plan at the end, but it's also February,
Yeah.
and you do those things building to hope that your fire income, March, April, May.
I'm not bad mouthing. I was just I feel bad for some of the guys that are laying it out there for the last 2 laps for another team in a sense. So, Chris, do you have anything on that?
No, it's just like Curt said, they were lined up and they kept the pace relatively high if they were to stick it all the way to the end there until about 200 meters to go. Whether they got pinned or just didn't have the right guy ready to jump, it's hard to say. But they did seem to do a good job organizing the finish. They just didn't seal the deal.
I did see Josh Wood. That was the guy that won the river ride, right? He's like a Cat 5 now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he won't be for long, probably because he won another race, Masters 35.45. So cool for him. What do you take away from the winners from this one, Curt?
Josh Carling to pull off that victory with essentially no teammates left against a couple of teams that had guys present, especially in that final sprint. It was really impressive to watch. He fought for that sprint at the end, and that was cool. That was impressive.
Yeah, totally. Chris?
I'm going to go with, Gardy Jackson in the 45s, just incredible performance there on his part. And then in the P12, Curt and I were watching Robert Skinner. We didn't know his name for a bulk of the race until the results came out, and we just kind of casually referred to him as hands on hoods. He spent the entire race on his hoods, through the 180, through every corner. I mean, he compared to the other guys, he's sitting up incredibly high, just eating a ton of wind for the entire race. And to initiate moves, cover moves, be in all the moves, and still be there at the end, I mean, that's a powerful effort.
He was noticeably very strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in a field like that, when somebody stands out as always being in every move, like it's just easy to see. He and Reichert were probably to me, it looked like the most active racers throughout that whole race.
Yeah, and maybe he's got a back problem. That's why he's up high on his hoods.
It could be. Either way, I mean, he's riding strong.
Yeah, good for him. I would pick, Josh, obviously you can't go wrong with that one, but John Franz, I'm going to pick him for Davis because I didn't see that he had any teammates out there, and good for him for being in the right position. Obviously, he's got some punch, being in the right position to go and not be afraid of those guys. And he did that at Folsom too, so good for him. All right, biggest losers, Curt.
I said, I noticed during the P12 race there was a couple of guys who, one in particular, who just attacked right off at the gun, only to get dropped within like
the next lap.
Yeah, and I just thought that was kind of crazy, but I don't know. He was an extreme optimist, so. That person's my biggest loser.
Maybe he was just warming up. I don't know. All right.
Maybe he had a mechanical.
Maybe so. Chris?
I'm going to be selfish and go with myself and my San Remo skin suit and the right side of my skin. No fun crashing, that's for sure. So. Yeah,
no, I guess mine would be you as well. I was going to say the Cliff Bar lead out.
Can I add one more?
Yeah, of course.
The Pete's guy who yelled at me going into the roundabout.
Who's yelling at Curt?
It was a Pete's guy. I don't know. Because I wasn't apparently going fast enough. Meanwhile, there were 4 crashes in our race in that roundabout. I don't know. I think that was a little crazy.
Had he been in any of those crashes? If not, maybe he's trying to reduce the field size to his benefit.
I have a feeling he may have been involved in one of the crashes.
Oh, okay. Well.
Did you know why he yelled at you? You said because you're going too slow, but was that did he say, hey, you're going too slow?
He said pedal through the roundabout.
Well,
that's what he said.
Next time, dude, just hop it a few times and they'll say, hey, stop pedaling through the roundabout.
Yeah, whatever.
I don't know.
Anyways,
Yeah,
add that guy to my loser.
My biggest losers are always people who get a little mouthy in the races, all the stupid things that we say. But I'm not going to go there.
Sure.
I was going to say the Cliff Bar team for their lead out, but only because I feel for the guys that were doing all the work and doing a great job on the front, and then nothing happens for them. I don't know, miscommunication, whatever. But I feel for the guys on the front and whoever was supposed to, that responsible guy, to be that sprinter. To
Tyler, that's not what you had written down.
Yeah,
I also said no.
Are you trying not to?
No Oak Valley Community Bank assisting in the last several laps. That would have been.
That's also not what you had
Not that
written
one?
down.
you're on the wrong segment there.
I feel like
Go up a little.
I feel like you're
skirting around something.
Reichert in his vest. That's the biggest loser. Yeah, is that the one you wanted? I was reading the
that's
wrong
one
part.
I wanted.
I think he got instructed at the start and during the race to take it off, and
Was it?
I mean, it was chilly, so
Yeah.
maybe that was the reason. I don't know.
You know, at the classics when I think it was Cancellara who used to always wear the warmers, and like
Yeah.
that was a sign that he wasn't
Yeah.
really that serious.
Yeah.
I felt like Reichert was like just smashing people's faces in, but didn't want to make it look like he was too serious about it. Like maybe he was getting cold while he was off the front. So
Actually,
it looked pretty cool.
What I'm a little more confused about though is why relegate him to fifth? You look at the video.
I didn't
there's
understand
no
that either.
significant gap.
Right. I would say maybe it looked like there was a gap between 8th and 9th. Put him back there. I don't know.
Now you're just being mean, Chris.
Okay. Sorry.
It's
Yeah.
still ahead of the Cliff Bar team.
Yeah, I agree. That was a strange choice.
Well, how far into the results do they issue the little bite-sized pies? Is it top 4?
So why don't you talk about that? Things that make you go, about the race.
I'll
start
give
with
that one to
Kurt.
Kurt.
Yeah, so in the past, Eagle Cycling Club and Napa had was the promoter for the race. This year, Red Kite came in, and one of the things I noticed was, one, the change in venue, but two, to reduce operational expenses, it appears as though the cherry pies that the winners got were personal size this year, whereas in the past, they were like a full-size cherry pie.
Yeah, and I remember when Andrew won one, it was a big pie.
Yeah, so that was kind of weird to me, but
I think they were like those little
I'm definitely
home run
nitpicking.
pies. Those little
They were probably
ones.
really good. It's just you can't share
Were they
that.
shepherd's pies? Or were they
Like
actually
the
cherry pies?
OVCB team, Josh wouldn't have been able to share that with his team.
No, well,
Now you might say,
would he?
"I'm going to stop you."
Yeah, okay. I won't go there.
Okay.
I don't know if they would deserve the pie. That's what you really say. Kurt, Chris, did you have anything on that one?
No, I would just I would agree that it was kind of a bummer to not win the pies, or for me to not win a pie, but it wasn't a very sizable one.
All right. Well, I won't go into what I was going to say. I did see, which we didn't get into much here, but I saw a video of Matt Michaels' Valley of the Sun crit, and we should probably look into see how all those things. I know that I think it was Claudio ended up winning the time trial out there. Is that correct?
That is correct. In the 35s.
In the 35s, yeah.
Yeah.
Matt was in the
P1.
in the P1. Yeah.
We should talk to Claudio about that because that was an interesting race. What happened after that? But I don't think we have enough detail to go into.
Yeah,
it
we can
today.
pepper him with questions to see how
Sure.
they let guys get 20 minutes on him in the road race. But
Oh,
yeah,
really?
yeah,
Train. I'm sure there's a train came by.
must have been.
No?
Yeah, but I think the crit looked like on Matt's video saying the average speed for the entire crit was over 30 miles an hour,
yeah.
which is that's a speedy crit.
And there was one. It was like a few corners to the finish. The guys are coming around to his outside. I don't know if you saw this, where one guy's they're moving into another guy, and it looks like spokes into the guy's skewer, but they both stay upright.
Did they both stay upright? I didn't see them for the rest of the video, and I heard a loud clang.
did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, they didn't coming back into frame.
Right.
They didn't take Matt down, so we're glad about that.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Upcoming races. So we talked about some of these last time, but big one coming up this weekend is the Snelling Road Race. Their reg looks huge. And
Yeah.
what do you think about? What do you have on that, Chris?
When I looked this morning, pre-reg was floating around 600 people, which is a good turnout. And it looked like big numbers in the 35-1-2-3 race. The P1-2 race is starting to fill out, and the 45-1-2-3 race is pretty stacked as well. So I think I don't think anybody from the data-driven athlete team is going down for the 35s, but it looked like Pete's has got big numbers. It looks like Mike's got a big team coming out, and Thirsty Bear will be doing the same, but they're going to have to battle with the Olympic Club team member Coble.
Is Reg full for that? Do you know? You
No,
said 60. So
it was about 60, and I think they cap it at 100. So you still got time to make it a day.
it's so tough for me on a this weekend, it'd be really tough. But who knows? Maybe my wife will say, "Hey, I have plans," and I'll end up heading down. But then the weather, it's cold. I mean, I'm all these excuses.
Yeah, perfect day for the Castelli winter wear, like the Gabba or the Perfetto.
True. And, just to come back onto our comments about the Castelli kit last time, those who were following along on the episodes, they did offer and they are replacing some of those jerseys that we had complaints about, right? Is that what it is? Yes, I think that's the case. Or they're fitting them or changing them. So reactions, they do well. Central Coast Road Race, I don't know. The Madera stage race is coming up. You said there's a new TT. Who mentioned that?
I think Curt follows TTs pretty closely.
Is that a Merckx or?
No, it's a regular TT. I think they just changed the course location. The map that I've seen shows it as kind of an out and back along a frontage road next to Highway 99, flat.
Okay, because it used to be a square.
Yeah, it used to be through Almond Orchards or something. So this is a new course, 14 miles instead of the usual 10. So
is that the one you got stung at?
I got stung by a bee and had to make a U-turn and EpiPen myself. So, and I ended up in the ER shortly thereafter.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Curt, have you ever EpiPenned yourself?
I have never EpiPenned myself, but I have been stung in the Almond Orchards during a road race. I think it was the Turlock road race. So I think that's pretty common right about now. So,
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, go out there, people. Support your local races. I'm looking at some ones. Then we've got Land Park coming up, Bariani, Chico Stage Race. I'm just throwing out some ones I really am interested in. Santa Cruz Classic. I'm going to make a big effort for that one this year. And
I mean, you're going or?
No, I'm going to make a big effort for it. In other words, I'm going to talk about it.
Okay.
Maybe do some research.
Done.
Okay, Curt. What are you mad at this week?
I sort of already said what I was mad at. The smaller cherry pies. I thought that was, I tried not to get mad about it earlier. I said I understood, but it does seem strange to me that the pies got smaller.
They were tiny.
And the registration fee got bigger.
So your piece of the pie literally went down.
Yeah,
smaller.
That was typically it's who's mad at what, but today it's just what am I mad at? And it's the cherry pie. And not because I thought I could win a cherry pie, but I was hoping I could get a slice. And you can't very well ask somebody for a slice
when
of
all
a
they have
personal
is
cherry pie.
Yeah, no, that's very true. It was more like a Danish or something like that.
Yeah, it was just a tiny little box. It looked like somebody got a ring or something.
That's disappointing.
Yeah,
Chris, are you okay? Are you mad at anything?
I'm still just mad at myself for crashing. Yeah, I hold on to that one for a while.
How'd you feel out there? Were you feeling like there's some results were coming your way?
I would say I was very much in the hurt locker for 15 minutes until the brake got away and then the pace eased off enough where I could recover to the point where it's like, okay, I feel good. I can make an effort now. But I allowed myself to fall kind of into the back quarter of the field, and having to jump really hard out of every turn, full sprint out of the 180 was not a really good feeling for the first part of the race. So once that kind of mellowed out and I was able to kind of regain my wits, I was feeling a lot better. But
yeah. Well, I hope you heal up, and sounds like a race. I'll have to check that one out next time.
It would be good for you.
We're not going to go down into any more dopers. I don't know if anybody else was hit positive this week.
They're still building the sky wing of the Dopers Hall of Shame, so we'll wait.
Yeah, very true. News and noteworthy issues for this week. Curt, did you have anything?
I was just checking out the April issue of Velo News, and I noticed they had the top 50 most valuable riders listed. And obviously, this is just their opinion. But I noticed they did a top 25 for men and a top 25 for women. And while Nielsen Paulus wasn't yet in the top 25 for men,
all right.
I'm sure in coming years we might see him there. But for the top 25 for women, there were several Californian women, a couple of NorCal, or at least people with a California connection. Ruth Winder, who was number 22, obviously from the Bay Area. I don't think she lives in California anymore, but I think we all saw her kind of racing as a junior coming up. So it was cool to see her there. And I think she's had a great beginning of the year already. She had a great year last year, but then she went down into the Cadell Evans road race, and I think she got second. So pretty impressive. Megan Garnier, number 12 on that list, also a Tour California winner. I think she lived in the Bay for a while, maybe raced for Tibco. It's cool. And then Corin Rivera, so SoCal junior, watched her race, a lot of NorCal races kind of growing up. She was number 6 on the list after a really strong year for Sunweb last year. So it's cool to see some Californian, some people we see at our racing scene on that list.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe we'll see, next few years, Nielsen, maybe Cole Davis.
Yeah.
Maybe Chris Flower?
Unlikely.
Okay. Do you have any news and noteworthy issues that came about for you, Chris?
I had a bunch, but I hit my head in that race and forgot them all.
A little foggy.
So, yeah.
No big deal. I have a few. Well, we've actually touched on all of them already. But I'll just recap the braking. That's always the auto braking system at the Abu Dhabi giving Cavendish a concussion. That's obviously a promoter's nightmare, I would imagine.
So to interject here briefly, I read a little bit on it, and I'd have to go back to confirm this, but allegedly he was near the back of the field when this happened, and the guys immediately behind the car didn't have any issue stopping. It may have just been a lack of attention on his part. So it's not like I don't think he hit the back of the car.
Oh, okay. Well, that's even more interesting. So the whole news thing, the owners saying, the promoters are saying, "Oh, it's our braking system. We're going to shut this off." But you're saying it was more like a chain reaction,
right? Yeah.
All right.
Because you'd think if you're, you would hear about people hitting the back of the car, and I don't recall that being the case.
All right. Well,
I'd have to dig in more.
Either way, in the neutral zone, having who pays that much attention in the neutral zone anyway? Rider going down, your star rider coming out there. That's a little odd. Once again, this big sprinters this year, almost all of them but Kittle having won. I'm excited to see if they can all come to a fruition at the Tour with a bunch of these different teams, and you're seeing some different lead-out situations too. So I'm kind of interested in that. And then the TT Merckx debate seems to have migrated online to the Cascade Classic. I'm a little disappointed about that, but what are people thinking? I don't know.
As a frequent guest on this podcast, actually, sort of.
Yeah, we'll have to take him out and have a conversation with him about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the news of the week that was. You guys have anything else to offer? Excitement for anybody racing this weekend? Either one of you?
I'm not. I like Snelling, but I'm going to let my body heal for another week.
If you offered to go to Snelling, I might go, but I probably am not, no.
Is there a chance? You said the P12s in the afternoon?
Yes.
What about that?
If you offered to go, I would.
Okay. Well,
go.
we'll report back and maybe let you know.
Okay.
Anything else, though? You got?
No, that's it. I think that's the news in the world of cycling, and I feel like I'm caught up. Thank you.
I feel like I am too. Thanks for going out to Cherry Pie and getting this all. There's a little bit of footage out there.
Yeah.
Just a thing. So go to our Facebook page and like it, follow it. We post some things on there. We also have a YouTube channel, Between Two Wheels. It's go there, subscribe, and we'll get some stuff up. Like the show, send it out, share it if you want. We're enjoying this, and I hope you are too. Chris, do you have anything else before we head out?
I've got nothing.
Well, thank you for showing up.
Sure.
And bringing some coffee. Kurt, thank you as well, and for bringing coffee as well.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.